a new, fresh, edible Portland out in the wild. You guys hear me say this, that we do some really cool ones, and we do them, and they're always different. But I have actually been following this chef, this guy right here, for a while, and didn't realize it. And I just discovered that we probably have met decades, a long time ago. When I think about that time in Portland, what was going on, when the movement and stuff was going on, and damn, chef, you were right there in the middle of what was going on. This is Chef Kasey Mills, Sesame Collective. This story is truly inspiring. And when I think about my time in restaurants, the decades through, front, back, all around, there's some of the things that you've said when we've been talking lately and setting this up. And I think it's quite inspirational. So I'm hoping, and I'm going to tag this, and Dean, tag this when we get it onto the snacks on Reels and all that for those young aspiring chefs or even restaurant people, I want them to really hear some of these things that this man's about to say, because we're way past the 90s angry chef stuff. Yeah. And when you talk about inspiring people, asking questions, hearing their thoughts, I'm going to pay my staff more so they're invested and take care of their responsibility. When you talk about those things, I just thought, this is the thing. This is the path. This is the way that I think it should have been. And for you, it just comes naturally, Yeah. So we're just going to dig into heavy stuff right off the bat.
I think maybe just talking about what the Sesame Collective is a good spot to start.
Yeah, we'll start there. Perfect.
So I think, the Sesame Collective was formed in 2020. And the reason we called it the Sesame Collective is because the sesame bush is both, it's fire retardant and drought resistant. And during that time in Portland, the city was just on fire in 2020. And for the restaurants, we were in a complete drought. And so watching everything that was happening, I don't know if you remember, that was like during the 86 list, and everything was just like so negative and so,
it was rough.
So just pointed towards operators. And, I had remembered different points in my career where people are like, chef, if you're here, then who's running your restaurant? And them kind of laughing, but not really saying that, they've got a great team or that there's people behind them that take care of most of the work. And so when this was all happening, that really rung true with me. And I think that me and my partner, we really wanted to make the Sesame Collective be about the group and not about a person. Mm-hmm. And so for us, the whole idea is that if you come and work for us, it didn't matter if you were a dishwasher, if you were the chef, or if you were the floor manager, we wanted to give you an opportunity to feel like you were an owner within this.
Yes.
So with that being said, we've given a lot of autonomy away of our group to the actual individuals that run our restaurants. And because we've done that, there's a lot of pride that's been given.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that are really trying to make their own pathway forward. And then our commitment is to try to give as many opportunities to them to either do events or to be on our webpage or to be on our social, to be on our menu, to find ways for them to grow. So I think, there's a saying, it's like you gotta give power to get power. And I think that that's a real thing. It's like, I think we both know chefs that just could not stand to not have it be their idea or have it be all of their control. What ends up happening is they end up burning out because they're fighting every battle.
Yeah.
And so we try to fight as few of them as possible, only the big ones, and then, just give where we can.
That's just so amazing, because it's just not the path that I saw so much, in my time coming up. And I would say Dean has talked about the same thing. It was, as we all talked about, some of the people that Dean's worked with, it's like that wasn't the way it was. And, this business is hard, and it is a moving target, and it's all these things. And it's like, invest in the people around you and your team and build them and inspire them. And it's amazing what will happen. And then the guest experience, oh my gosh, what a novel idea. Have that shining through and letting people be themselves and bring it. You're trusting them enough to pick up the knife and get behind and on the line, or the shaker behind them,
it's like, okay, so we have 6 restaurants. Realistically, I spend 1 to 2 hours a week in each restaurant. for me to come in and pretend like I know more than the people who actually operate it just seems silly at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can come in and say, here's our problem. What do you guys think is the solution? And then we talk through it. I might have a good idea of what the problem is just because I've done this a long time. But if I come in and tell them exactly what the problem is without giving them a chance to explain themselves first, they're going to feel exacerbated, right?
Yep.
And then I'm going to leave, and then they're just going to talk shit all night long, right? So it's like, how do I get them to think that this is their idea and help grow it from that aspect? And we find that that's a better approach, and our people, you know, they like that approach, and that there's the ownership is in that situation, you know. And I think, you know, we've done a lot with like trying to teach people about numbers, teaching them about how to deal with guests and guest interactions. And I think, you know, in this day and age, so many people are on their phone and spending such like a lot less time with actual other people that just teaching people how to people, like how to like function in society is like a whole thing now.
It's a whole thing. I was going to say that, you know, that was kind of the inspiration for me wanting to bring this up and talk about it. It's just there is this human connection part to everything that you've done. And it's, you know, how you've seen it, you coming up through your career, like, you know, this is the way that we need to do it. Yeah. And then, you know, with your wife, partner, nutritionist, and this attention back to the land, and that you are seeing these, bringing these, you know, closing the loop and these circles and these ecosystems and bringing it all together, that it is all connected.
It's all connected. I also, too, I got to just give props to my partner, Laura Amans, too, right now, because I think that she runs our HR department and our, like we call it the people area of the group. And she does a lot of this, too, so, like, I can't take all the credit, Absolutely. You know? But I think it's really important to name her because 100%. I think that this is very much a group effort for our company and for, like, us is what we're doing. And, you know, I kind of oversee the finances, so I'm kind of the, like, bottom line guy as far as the numbers go and, like, whether or not we're profitable or not profitable. And she's very much the opposite where she's kind of, like, I guess you could say, like, bleeding heart, trying to make sure that, like, we're training our managers, getting people, you know, up to speed. And, you know, just like I said, just teaching them, like, you know, what's the difference between actual harassment or someone telling you to do your job better, right? Because I think at this point, the lines are blurred between some of that stuff, you know? So, like, I think it's just, like, us just trying to teach people how to, like, understand what it is that they're doing.
The guidance and establishing that faith and that trust that it's like, just listen to my X amount of decades I have been in this spot. You know, that old, with everybody's got a first day, you know?
There's cooks now that are in my kitchens that, like, basically I've been cooking longer than they've been alive. And that feels really weird. You know, I'm just like, oh, Jesus, man. Like, you know, like, you don't realize you're old until you're old. Yeah. You know, it just hit me the other day, like, well, not the other day, maybe like a year ago. Like, I'm 43 now. I'm still, like, young compared to some, but, like, I'm definitely like, oh, shit, like, Michael J. Fox, people don't know who he is. Yeah. You know, Pauly Shore, like, I made a Pauly Shore joke. People, like, they don't, like,
nothing.
I'm like, oh, okay. Oops. You know?
I'm gonna go get my Camaro and turn on Journey. Turn on Journey.
You guys don't remember T-Tops?
Yeah, right.
They were before Tesla.
Oh, that's awesome. You have been an inspiration to a lot of people, and having this, and it's really cool, the different neighborhoods, if you will, around town that you've chosen to put specific ones. Like here we are in Yala, that's kind of a Mediterranean smokehouse.
Yeah, it's a smokehouse. Yeah.
And it's like, and it's in Multnomah Village, you know, and it's like there's intent, you know, and that's the one thing about you, that everything is clear, not in a ego way or whatever, but like there's intention and there's thought, you know, and it's just incredible.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think, so we always thought that the Southwest was an underserved market, so we wanted to be here, but I think, you know, technically you could say this is like a strip of Multnomah Village, but like we never wanted to be in like a strip mall. Yeah. So we were like, how do we find something that has character? Like, I think character is a big deal for us. So when this became available, we just saw the bones of it. And, you know, the one thing about Yala is if you go downstairs, there's a huge prep kitchen. So there's a lot of room. I mean, when you're in this game, like real estate is everything. How much space you have and what you're paying for it is everything. And, it really says what you can do with what you have. So when we saw the downstairs, we were like, there's just absolute untapped potential here. So we came here. And then, our other restaurants that are most of them are actually in the city was on purpose too, because, we feel like tourism is down there, and that's like people are coming into the city and leaving the city a lot more. And so we've kind of chosen that area as a place for us to like be a hub, because we not only get a lot of regulars who are from Portland, but we also want to make sure that we're getting the tourists too. Yeah. So we kind of keep that. But yeah, MEC was our first one. It was a 100-seat restaurant. In the summer, it's about 130 seats now. And, that was the first big boy restaurant that I did that I was like, oh my God, like hang on tight. Yeah. And then.
But I celebrated 10 years with you the night of.
It's funny when your head's down, because my head's been down for so long that like when you look up, you're like, oh, like, just the other day, Laura, my partner, was saying, in the pandemic, we did like a certain amount of like in sales. And now we've almost tripled that 5 years later of like what we're doing now. So like we've had like a 150% increase in revenue over the last 4 or 5 years. And you don't even know you're doing those things. You're just kind of going from one thing to another. Sure. And it's just one foot in front of the other. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I guess that is true. I guess there is some big stuff going on, so.
And rightfully so, man. I mean, the food's incredible. I mean, the menus at each one of the places, and even at Bless Your Heart, even on the burger side, I'm like everything. And again, there's intention and, this focus towards nutrition and the product and bringing it in and how that farmer's farming, like you and the team, like you get that and you understand that. Like we can go with less stuff in on the plate if it's in season, if it's grown well, if it's all of that you don't need to cover up in sauces and go nuts, It's like, keep it simple, man. Yeah. Keep it simple and true. But and that does not take away character and profile or flavor. Matter of fact, it's better. It's like it.
God, I can't remember exactly what I said. I said this once before, but it's like, we're not trying to alter the food. We're trying to complement the food. And I think that that's the way that I view it. It's like, if you get good product in, it's about complementing what's going on the plate as opposed to trying to alter it or change it. Like, for us, asparagus just simply grilled is, if it's really good asparagus and good olive oil, it's good, right? And then you squeeze a little lemon, you can't beat that, Done. I think that that's one of those things that I keep trying to explain to the teams. It's just like, we just can simplify. Like if you were to fly right now to the Mediterranean, you might just get a piece of grilled octopus. Like the octopus at MEC, it's been on since day one. It's just olive oil and a little bit of espelette and dill. You just squeeze a lemon over it, and that's it. It's just good to go. It's just straight simple, know. And that's definitely been something that I've always thought about.
That's so rad.
Like how to keep it, simplified and good. I'm definitely not the most complicated chef out there or complex, but I think that my goal is to try to make a place that anyone can come to it and identify what they're getting,
Yeah. And putting, your influences from kind of around the Mediterranean, and playing with the different, we talked earlier about, or previously about, the spice trade, like these things, and like bringing these things to life to places that, for the three of us, we've been around these things, and these herbs and these spices or these ideas for a long time. But to a lot of people, they don't know, or they even see it in a grocery store. They wouldn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And it's like, but here you go. And here's the thing. And again, concentrating on, we've talked a lot about your garden that you've done and what you want to do with that. And I think we're getting there in August.
Dude, it's starting to look really good. So.
And, and you and the team working with the local, like, okay, what do we got? What can we do? Here's what I'm looking for. Let's do this. But it's just so real. Like there's just, like you said, it's available to anyone. It's open, like, come on, experience this. Okay. Jump on this journey with us and see what's at.
When I explain it to the teams, I say, we want a place for young Portlanders to be able to take their parents, and their parents understand what's happening. You know what I mean?
That's a great way to put it.
You know, because it's like we want it to be fun and exciting, but we also want it to be like absolutely accessible. You know?
Yeah, and the educational component. Like, let's dig in.
Yeah, and the education.
You know, I was gone when MEC came about. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when I got back to Portland just a little over a year ago, you know, I finally got to go. And I was amazed, I was inspired, I've been telling everyone ever since. I'm like, not only that, they know how to handle a fire alarm really, really well.
Yeah. That's so funny. So it was our 10-year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so me and Laura left because we were like, team's got it, everyone's under control. 10 minutes later, they're like, the fire alarm's gone off. And our floor manager's like, it's fine, we're popping bubbles on the street, everybody's having a great time. We're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
They got it.
It was so hilarious. Like, some people were looking around, whatever, some people were getting up, you know. Our table was just like, eh.
Yeah.
Until we see the helmets and the turnouts coming out, like we're not going anywhere. And then it's like, all right, here's some bubbles. We'll figure it out until they get the key on or whatever it is. I just thought, you know, I'm like, oh man, restaurant life, you know? It's always a something.
Like, you're either the most anxious person because of restaurants or you're the chillest person.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, you know, but it's like.
And you almost have to be one to get to the other. You're like, what?
Well, yeah, exactly.
What fresh hell is today?
Yeah. I remember like being younger and like having friends of my chefs come in, and they were always so chill, and I was always so stressed, and I was like, why are they chill? I don't understand how you get so chill. And then it finally hit me one day where I was like, shit, if everything's a problem, then nothing's a problem, and if nothing's a problem, then I might as well chill. Yeah. And that was just kind of like, it's just like, all right, well, so we don't have a dishwasher, what do we do? Well, we'll figure it out, you know? Yeah. And then you just start getting really fluid with problem solving.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes on the ticket machine to jump in, you know? Like, exactly. Everybody go. Yeah. We were, Dean and I were talking yesterday about, because we're discovering we have more chef friends from the past than we realized. And I remember this particular chef, and I mean, we were just getting slammed on a Friday night. You know, ticket monster just spitting out both racks on both sides of the pass, just like, oh my God. You know, and he's just, it can only get so busy. Yeah. We only have so many plates, you know, there's only so many seats. As long as there's, you know, something for the kids and something in the bar for the, whatever it may be, you know, as long as the water's cold because it's warm, like, but it can only get so busy. Yeah. And then, but don't freak out about it. Yeah. Because, you know, you're not going to get anywhere with that. You know, it's like, just keep the pace, keep your head, and keep going. And it's just like, I guess you see that line, you know, or brunches.
I remember during I'm sure, like, not that we need to go into the bear, but that one episode of the bear. Have you seen, you know what, the tickets just are spewing out of
I haven't seen it, to be honest with you, Chef. Like, I can't watch it. Yeah. Like, I still have PTSD. I saw Burnt, and it got me for like a week and a half.
I've only seen the first season, but that one episode of like the tickets just spewing, like that's real.
That's real.
Know? And that can feel that way sometimes. And I've never ever felt like kitchens could be so encapsulated by a show, but that one really did it for me. And also, I think that's like what lured me into kitchens when I was young. It was just like, you know, I mean, when you're line cooking, I like mainly like to contribute to like playing the drums. It's like when you're sauteing, you know, you might only be able to do 1 or 2 pans at first, but the next thing you got a symphony going of like 6, 7 pans. Yeah. You're always 2 to 3 steps ahead in your head of where you should be. You know exactly what you need to do next. You know, I made paellas for a long time, and those are like 20 steps by the time you're done with one. And I just got to a spot where it was like rhythmic, where it's like I never ever got the steps out of order. Yeah. So if I ever got confused, it's like, well, what was the last thing I did? And then I'm like, okay, there you go. You know, and just going that way. But God, I love the pace of that. I miss it so much. And I know, like, actually from talking to us three, seeing Dean's face and your face during that, like that, like everybody loves that part of it. Like we all have this like romantic vision of like what it was like to just get slayed. Just war. Yeah, just war. I remember you said once too, like,
I got into this because I was looking for a really cool way to kind of pass the time,
totally
you know, and I'm like, and there's nothing like it. Once you get in the groove and you're on it, I'm like,
my God,
next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night and you're scrubbing stuff down to hopefully get out of there at by 1 o'clock in the morning or something.
When I started, I was working as like a lifty on a ski hill. So I was putting people on a chair, which, you know, that time goes so slow. And I just remember being like, what am I going to do for the next 40 to 50 years of my life? And then when I got into kitchens, it was like 10 to 12 hours went so quick. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm doing, you know? And it's just funny how serendipitous it all comes together.
Well, it found you. I mean, it's clear. It's clear. It's in your genes and in your DNA, chef. Like it's clear, and that it found you, and you just followed its natural path, and here you are. I mean, like when I saw you getting out of yoga class last week and all that, I'm just like, you know, talking about again ecosystems and people and all the things, and just keeping that human connection and us and nature, that we're all in it together, and that comes through, and that's so rad, chef. Like it's just so rad to see, and you know, for the people who do know, who've been around, for the people who don't know, who've been around, or if you are somewhere else in the world or the country, your impression, I think, on what has happened in this culinary town, you know, on a global level, is real, and people may not even know who you are, which is the raddest thing in a way, man. You know?
It's funny. You know, like once again, I think like, I don't know how I feel about the game. The game is interesting to play, right? You know, it's like, I've seen a lot of restaurants get a lot of press that are no longer around, you know, and I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of ego in them, and even when I think that I don't, I know I do. And, you know, there's been a lot of times that I've been like, why aren't we getting written more about? Why are we not more of a name in the city? But then again, at the same time, it's like, we always say cheeks and seats, you know? If you have cheeks and seats, you don't need that other stuff.
That's it.
And that's like what we've really tried to focus in on, is just making sure that we're that. And, you know, now I'm at a point in my career where I'm like, I'm okay that didn't happen. I think it's honestly probably for the best. You know, you see the limelight change people, right? And I think that for me, I don't know if I would have handled it well or not, but I think like, I don't know if I've ever even really put this thought together, but just the idea of being true to myself means so much, right?
Yeah.
Like,
honest.
I'm sober. I've been sober for 8 years, but I never jumped on the sober chef bandwagon, you know, and mainly because I was like, there's other people already doing it, and I don't want it to feel inauthentic to who I am.
Sure.
So I can be this, but I don't need to, like, try to be somebody else in it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's like part of the reason that maybe I'm not so well known is just because like I don't know if that feels authentic to who I am. You know, I think at the end of the day, if it's about cooking in kitchens, then it's about cooking in kitchens, and that's like where I've focused. I've always been like into punk rock music and a punk rock scene, and I remember when I first got into cooking, a big part of it was like wanting to enrich people, right? It was like to make other people better. And that's like, I'm still doing that. And that was like a thing that I wanted from the get-go. So, you know, I think that that's a thing that feels real to me, you know, and so I've just kind of kept doing it.
And that's a great thought. And it was something, you know, it was one of the points I kind of wanted to bring up today, that in a mission statement I wrote a while back, and I keep it posted. I almost printed it in the magazine once, actually. And it was just simply that, you know, eating and drinking and vibing is one of the most intimate acts. And the fact that people trust us in our sourcing of ingredients in the farms and the farmers, fisher people, foragers, beekeeper, whoever it may be, and then what we do with it, you know, it's like there is no more, like I said, intimate connection than that.
Yeah.
And then to even take it to a healing thing of making sure that things are on the level and it's not got chemicals and like not covering it in salt and fatty fat stuff, like good stuff. I mean, but it's clear. And so to hear you say that, it's just like, and it is clear that is not just your drive and focus, and has been, but it rings true in your, you know, and the group, and having that commonality. And I think it's important because, again, it's like, you know, the flash, the this, the that. We all know we see restaurants come and go, or the restaurant's still around, but chef's hot, chef's not hot, but the name, do this and that. And that is part of the game.
Yeah.
But then there is, I don't mean like slow and steady wins the race, but sometimes just keep doing it. And if cheeks are in seats and plates are coming back to the kitchen, or the dish pit empty, cleared off, then there you go. Game done. And
what's the saying? It's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just, keep trying to come back to that. It's just like, and also too, I very much, if everyone knew what was going on in my brain, I don't know if people would want to work for me. But like what comes out of my mouth is like, I at least try to like put it in a way that is understandable and put it in a way that like, that it's like, I always have to remember, it's like the main thing is that you keep the people that are here moving forward, motivated and engaged, right? Even if a dish isn't quite right or it's not a way that I would like it, first thing I ask is like, well, does it sell? If it sells well, then I know it's just a me thing and not a personal. Or I'm like, is it incorrect? And incorrect to me, is it burnt? Is it oversalted?
Sure.
Is it under seasoned? Is it technically not right? Like flavor might not be my thing, but like if it's technically not right, then we go back and we talk. But so a lot of it is just like it's really just learning how to compromise and learning how to like put your ego aside to realize that the most valuable thing you have is the people that work for you.
Truth.
Your building's going to go up in rent. Your equipment's going to depreciate. Your name can either come and go, but that's all going to rely on the people that you give and what you put into them.
100%.
If you stay moving forward or not.
Yeah.
So.
100%. A question we like to ask in these, and I don't think we have done it in a while. What's something about you that maybe not everyone knows? And we've had everything from I was a bass player in this band to I was Chuck E. Cheese. I was in the costume. We've had some good ones. I was a Ford, correspondent, and so we've had all kinds of crazy ones.
When I was 17, I was a tour guide in a cave in South Dakota.
Okay.
So I was 17 and I would take, people down into this cave. It was called Black Hills Caverns, and give them like a whole spiel on like the cave and on the ecosystem. And what's funny about that is I would get geologists down there. And they would be like, no, what you're saying is not right. You're totally wrong. And I was just like, man, dude, I'm 17. Like, you went to school for this. And what I learned while I was there is like, okay, so obviously my script is wrong. They're halfway making this up as they go, so I've got to accept that. And then the other thing was like, okay, I started like learning where the BS was and like when to say the BS, because I had to clear a whole hour's worth of talk, right? A whole hour's worth of speaking. So I got to the spot where all the BS would be in the middle, but I'd always end with a fact, like caves are dark. And they forget the middle, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know what? Caves are dark. You're right. Yeah, all right. This guy knows what he's talking about. He might be 17, but he could lead a lecture. And
you should run for office, man.
I know. And I just it was like I think the most I ever had was about 40 people in a tour, but it was just like, for a 17-year-old to be speaking on that level and just like learning how that goes. It was just like one of those things that was like really unique and interesting, and then. I only went caving a couple of times, but it's intense, like it's not necessarily like you're going to get squished between something. It's your body's really long and you're trying to like move it and operate it through these like cave systems. So that was something that like I did that for about a year, and it was like one of those that I kind of look back on it with pretty fond memories. I feel like it taught me quite a bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Next steps. What do you mean?
Well,
fun things on the horizon. I mean, you don't have to say anything. Just like,
I will. I'm getting close. So we're most likely doing another project. I'm like literally in the last steps of the lease agreement. So that's really exciting. If we do it, it's going to be called Angelina's. And so Dolly Olive was an ode to my grandma. Angelina's is going to be an ode to Laura Amans' grandma.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like kind of an everyday restaurant, is what we're kind of calling it, but it's going to have more of like the Italian side of food, kind of like Dolly Olive, but it's also going to have more of a like steak section. We don't want to call it necessarily like a steakhouse because those have connotations of like celebration. We want it to be like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
But we're working on that. And, I'm not, the one thing I'll say is I'm not going to tell you where it is.
That's fine.
That's fine.
You didn't have to go this far.
Oh, no, I'm actually really excited about it.
I thought you might just say another 10 years of MEC and the rest of them,
Well, and then hopefully that as well. And then we're also working on a cookbook. All the writing's done for it. All the recipes are written for it. So we're navigating that situation, which, is quite a bit bigger than I thought. And then we also are trying to put hummus into grocery stores. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's a project. And then on the people side of things, we're still just like working on how to make our restaurant group operate better. I mean, we've got 6 restaurants. There's a lot of things that are happening, like on any given month, we have about 900 transactions come through our bank account. So trying to like stay on top of that beast of like, how do we manage that better? And then also how do we communicate from, the top level down? We have about 220 employees. So trying to get them all the information when they need to know it and when it's relevant it's a challenge. So there's always internal work. I guess that's the best way I describe myself now. It's like, I don't work in the business, I work on the business, so it's just trying to find ways to keep that going. And then at the same time, you got to have growth, on some level. So like, we've got to find the next thing. It's like, I've got a whole group of people that want to see growth, right? So we need to deliver growth and just, keep it moving forward. Also, late stage capitalism, right? Like we've got to find ways to make more money to keep people happy and give them raises. And, and man, it's like being a punk rock kid. Saying those words come out of my mouth is like a weird thing, but that's like really what it is. It's like we're just trying to find ways to keep everything growing.
And I think where we are today, so here we are at the beginning of June 2025, and if you guys know what's going on, it's a little weird. Things have changed a lot. But it is almost punk rock in a way because you're doing it for your soul and for the people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like to try to figure out how to be a good leader and a taker care of with the Sesame Collective umbrella, and all of that. It is punk rock to try to figure out, how do we carve this out instead, it's not just. I
appreciate you saying that.
I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
It is the anti-establishment to say, how am I going to carve this out for this movement? It's a mission. It's a movement you're on, Chef. Let's just be real.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. It's so weird to like, because I don't have these thoughts about myself. I think, like with everybody, we've got our own internal things that we're dealing with. Sure. So I see the struggles, but I forget what it looks like from the outside in. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, I think that's a really nice thing to say. And I do feel that way. It's like the most, like I would say the hardest thing in my job is this like having to tell people where they are financially, because it makes me feel like I'm like there's like this like money grubbing scenario, and it's like that's not actually the case. It's like, we say we want this percentage for the restaurant group and for what we need, and then otherwise you're like, and if anyone in our restaurants can tell you, like if you're hitting your percentages, you get to give raises, you get to get new equipment, you get to play with food as long as you're hitting your food costs. But it's just like we have to make sure we're hitting those elements, and then from there it's like, if you want to give raises, if you want to get something in that's higher food cost and that we can financially make it work, let's do it. But not everybody understands that. I especially think in today's age, where there's just a lot of mistrust in general. It's hard for people to realize that that's how we feel, but that's really how we feel. It's like, exploitation is a real thing, right? And so we don't want to be a part of that. I also don't know if we're necessarily like, we want to make income so that, I've got 2 kids. I need to put them through college. I need a retirement. But I think that we're not doing it for money on that level. I think if we were, we wouldn't be in Portland anymore. We would be in Beaverton or other places where there is more money to be made. But, I think we feel like, why would we move to Portland to cook in what would be anywhere USA? You know? And I think that's our mission is like, we're a Portland restaurant group. We want to stay in Portland. Like,
which is also punk rock. And
which
it's
is
also
also we have this wall at Bar Dolly. It's this like we pulled these mirrors off of it, and it was just this exposed brick, and there's like screws in it, and there's like holes in it, and there's like glue on it, and like it doesn't look that great. But at the same time, it's so beautiful with character.
It's got history.
It's
got history. Kind of badass.
It's over 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
And people were like, "You got to cover that up," and I was like, "No way!" I was like, "You can't pay to you can't make things like this."
You're like, I'm gonna frame it.
Yeah,
you know?
this wall is just how it is, right?
Yeah.
And this is the way that we want it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that holds true to some of the things about Portland. Like you're looking around at it, and it's like, you know, traveling over the Ross Island Bridge, and you see how beautiful the area is that we live. Nothing beats that, you know. And Portland is that, right? It might be gritty. It is gritty. Let's just be honest. But that's part of the character of the whole area. I mean, you know, the grunge scene that came out of the '90s here. It's just it's all still here.
Still here.
It's just you just got to believe in it, I guess.
You got to, and it's a rock and roll town. I mean, I don't mean that in like that particular genre, because anything can be punk rock. You know, like any, you know, hip hop and rap, or especially OG.
For sure.
You know, I'm like it's a theory, it's an idea, it's a mindset. But it is, and that's one thing that I love. And I think, and I felt this for even last fall in 2024. There's a breath of fresh air, and there's some wonderful energy going on in town right now, and synergy. Like there's something. We're finding like a lot of the cities shaking off the slow bounce back from 2020 or 2022, or how long it took us all. And here we go. And one thing that I've always loved about this town, why I wanted to bring this magazine back and do this, and to be able to do this, to tell these stories and your stories, is like there is just this soul and this grit and this spirit. And to hear that, we hear it all the time. We say like it's DIY scrappiness about what we do. And I'm like, yeah, man, you know, it is, and it's what we do, you know.
Portland's a city of makers.
It is. We got knife forges now.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
3 or 4. I mean, you know, it's like everything else. I'm like,
I love it. I love how. I mean, I love this city, and I love that aspect of it. You know, if you can go to like Made here in downtown, right?
Yeah.
And it's like got all this stuff that's like, you know, like kind of just showcases what's made in this area, and it's just like, I don't know. Portland definitely is. It's just a city of makers.
It is. It's out of the box thinking. It's you know, we're in it together. We'll take care of each other. You know, there's just that sense, and it's just rad. It makes me happy and stoked to be able to do it. You can feel the energy. You know, it's like it's a rad place. Anything else you want to add? You know, we don't really get too into questions in a
I don't know
real format. In a 60 minutes kind of way.
You know.
I mean, so we've got Shalom Y'all.
Yeah, there's Shalom Y'all.
We've got Bless Your Heart for the burgers.
Yeah,
we got Dolly Olive.
Yeah, that does Italian.
Swinging Italian.
Yeah.
We're here at Yala Mediterranean Smokehouse.
And then there's MEC.
Then we got the
I mean, I would say that I'm just more than anything just grateful. You know,
That's awesome.
You know, I moved to this city when I was 20 years old, and I always make the joke, it's just like, I'm just an onion cutter, you know, but like that was really where it all started. And then, you know, I mean, I think it's, you know, good luck and opportunity have met, and it's allowed me to be on this path. But if it wasn't for the people that helped this vision come true, none of it would exist. So I think more than anything, there's just like gratitude for, I think, A, the guests that come in, B, the staff that come in, and then the people who I think just like believe in what we're doing, and I guess believe in me enough to do it. So I think that's really it. It's just gratitude. And you know,
that's awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and as I said earlier, I mean, part of that, these people coming to you, these opportunities, these things, these learning, these different roles at different restaurants, different chefs, it's because of what you're giving. It's your energy, chef. Like it's your spice going into the spice rack that's helping.
That's nice.
That makes the universe give that back, because it's what you're giving back.
Yeah.
And it's ever present.
Yeah, there's definitely something to all that, isn't there?
There is.
So.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kasey. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for hanging in with us. Dean, thank you for getting back there behind the cameras. We love doing these. We're going to keep doing them. And we're going to do some more stuff with Kasey, with Chef, and throughout the collective, so you guys can really get gonna dig in. Like we're gonna do some fun stuff together over the next couple months. You guys will see some editorial, you see some other stuff. Like we're gonna play. Yeah, we're gonna play. And it's a good feeling, you know, it's a good feeling and a mutual, just a fun relationship and partnership. Anyway, we thank all of you. We thank you for the support. Get yourselves to any of the restaurants, depending on how you're feeling that day. Get a burger up there in Concordia, you know, go get some of the best Mediterranean stuff I've had on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. And support local, y'all. All right. We love you. We thank you. Peace and water, y'all. We'll see you out there. Stay wild.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
That was great.
Thank you, Chef.